she talks a lot about how women hold a lot of the power in the relationship in terms of creating this fulfilling, intimate, deep space. And we women often damage it by doing exactly what we've been talking about, is the way they speak to the man like they know better, and they know better than he does how to be the man. It destroys intimacy. Welcome to Live Luminous Conversations, where Lena and Melissa explore self-discovery, connection, and how it feels to embody your spirituality and intuition.
So welcome to the conversation. We're so happy you're here.
Hello, and welcome back to Live Luminous Conversations with Melissa Leggett
and Lena Dubaya.
Does that give anyone 1990s voice? What is it?
Voicemail.
Couldn't even remember the word. Voicemail vibes.
Yeah,
because we're here for it. Today we are going to, talk about a few things, but one of the first ones in particular is you will probably hear Lena and I discuss terms like wounded masculine energy, healed masculine, divine feminine. So maybe just kind of giving you a breakdown
of what those are and how they show up.
Yeah. So for me, wounded masculine is synonymous with the overculture, the patriarchy. It's these ways in which we have been just indoctrinated in being distracted.
I'm going to take you a step back.
Okay.
You like to describe these as life forces that
Yes.
are in all of us.
Thank you.
And
so these are vital life force energies, the masculine and the feminine, that exist within every single one of us. And it is really, the way I see it is they are you striving to have them become harmonized and balanced within you, and then also in your relationships. So even the way in which you and I are in this partnership, I see how we shift. One of us will shift more into our masculine to allow the other one the space of feminine creativity and flow, and then vice versa. And that's how it always naturally exists in these relationships. Even in my relationship with my husband, which I pride myself on, we so beautifully can embody, he is the healed masculine, I am in my feminine. We still shift at times where I might have to step up and take on more of that masculine structured role and allow him to be in more of his flow, his creativity. So they are naturally meant to kind of ebb and flow and change within each other. But that is actually how you strike balance. So balance is never a static, not moving thing. It's always, think of any yoga pose you've hit. You need to find your way, like settle into the pose. It's movement to get there. Is that kind of what you were?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to touch on that before we get into it, because I don't want people to think that, women have to always be in their feminine.
No.
And men cannot be in their feminine. I think both are incredibly important.
Both are incredibly important. And when I say the feminine, what I really mean is, to me, the feminine is an embodied experience where you are listening to your body, you're in tune with your body, you're in tune with your intuition and your inner knowing. And to me, it's also this place of like trust. You are trusting your heart to guide you. You are trusting your path. You're trusting your purpose. And then it's flow. It's this creativity, this like kind of this flow state that you can access. It is the creation of, at times, life. And then again, using that life force to bring life to, I think at times, business, art. That to me is feminine. And then the masculine to me is the structure. So a metaphor I really like is always the feminine is the river and the masculine is the river banks. And to me, the masculine structures and holds what the feminine is bringing through. So in building a business, the feminine is really, like I was saying, these like this flow state, this creativity, these ideas, but you need the masculine structure to hold it and to form it, and then to constantly rearrange every time you move to expand. And to me, and I get this from David Data's work, but the gift of the masculine is his presence, is his attention. And I always think that my conceptualization of this is often for the feminine to come online. The work really comes in first, healing the masculine, because we do live in a culture where it is just wounded masculine all over the place, which is over competition, distraction, disconnection. Because again, if the masculine's gift is his presence, I think keeping people distracted is a very very sinister move. It's really needing to compete over and like suppress others in order to feel like you are seeking control. And the healed masculine is just this innate confidence. This discernment is a really big one for me, like this ability to kind of bring full presence to what's at play and know how to lead forward. And I would also say, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
I want to take it back from conceptualization
Okay.
to something a little bit more practical that people can hold on to and remember. Can you tell us about what it was like when you were in your wounded masculine? What was that experience like for you? How have you seen it in others? So that if people can find points of like, oh yeah, maybe I actually do this.
Yeah. So I lived my teens and 20s, most of my 20s until about 28, I would say, in my wounded masculine. And it was this constant need to compete, this constant need to be doing, to achieving. I glorified my busyness and I wore it as a badge of honor that I was like the busiest person I knew. I always worked two jobs. And in the period of my life where I wasn't working two jobs, I was working full time and then going to graduate school at night. And I like literally was like, oh, I don't sleep. Like something to brag about. um, and it was this kind of, I was constantly seeking my worth outside of me. And again, it wasn't that I always thought I was like a confident person, but I was always hiding behind my achievements. Whereas now that I've shifted and I've healed a lot of these wounded masculine traits, like I have this just innate confidence in who I am, flaws and all. And this, I bring worth to the table because of who I am and my unique perspective.
So it's the difference between I'm worthy because look at all that I've done, look at my
Look at
degrees.
all I can do.
Yeah, versus being, right? Like we are human. I love this phrase. We're not human doings, we're human beings. So it's the I'm worthy because I am.
Yeah, and that's actually, to me, being is a feminine value, and to me, it's difficult to kind of parse them apart at times because when you are, again, it's this state in which when you heal and you can embody both the healed masculine and the feminine, the way in which they, sorry, I'm doing the infinity sign with my hands if you're watching. It's the way in which they're constantly working together to balance each other. And again, coming back to that presence, the way in which I healed my masculine was by bringing this presence to myself, to my programming, to my wounds, and knowing what was driving me, what was like, am I making this decision because this is what I want, or am I making this decision because of fear or scarcity mindset or a belief around money that I took on when I was 3 years old? Like, what is the driver right now? And bringing that like that unwavering presence to myself and allowing all of it to be but not run the show is really, I think, one of the hallmarks of a healed masculine. Someone in their healed masculine is conscious awareness, presence, the ability to be fully with themselves and then bring that attention to their relationships and others.
Yeah,
How does that feel for you?
I think I've had a similar experience. And I know in the past you've talked about how being in relationship with your husband has given you the space in order to fully heal
Mm-hmm.
and in order to feel safe enough to bring the feminine online.
Yes.
So I wanted you to talk a little bit about that too. Like, what was the transition like? Not that, you're perfectly healed and everything's fine and
We don't come here to be
we're
perfectly healed.
perfect. Okay.
Like and subscribe.
I also wanted to touch on one other thing too, which is kind of a sidestep. I think a lot of times what I hear from a lot of people when I talk about things that I'm working through,
Mm-hmm.
their question is, okay, so what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And my response is, I'm not trying to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just want to sit with it. I just want to experience it. I just want to see what comes up. And I think maybe it's my judgment of myself. But there are a lot of times where I get weird looks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because we're so used to if you have a problem,
Doing.
you do.
You fix.
You fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is such a different way of getting to know yourself and
Oh
relate
yeah.
to yourself and deepen your connection with yourself.
Yeah. And I'm sure our women listeners right now that are in relationship with a man think about the difference between when you bring your husband or your partner a problem and he goes into fixing mode, and then versus when you bring him a problem and he just holds you. Like, not, he's not to physically hold you. I prefer
Hold
that. Hold
space.
space for you, hold space for the problem, and just literally lets you emote and express and be. Like, so often I know women can get frustrated where they're like, well, I don't want you to fix this. I want you to just like, I want to just be able to bring it to you. That's kind of that difference of like, presence to us as a lifestyle. Like, we do these things, we bring these things to awareness. So we're in continual presence with ourselves. So we can consciously choose a different path. We can consciously choose how we want to show up in the world and our way of being. Um, and that is what the healed masculine offers, is this just space. And I think the hallmark of how healed masculine feels is he feels safe. He offers safety. And my view of this is the feminine cannot come online unless she feels safe. So, unless you can achieve that feeling of safety within yourself, the feminine is not going to come online. So, I don't work with people in, bringing their feminine online. I work with people in healing their masculine, creating a feeling of safety in themselves. And then naturally, from that balance, the feminine comes online more strongly. So, in my story, this journey started for me when I met and fell in love with my husband, because he was an exhale for me of just like this feeling of, wow, it is safe to be with you. It is safe to be in love with you. And it is safe to bring all of me to you. It wasn't right off the bat. Like, we just had our moments where,
First date.
a first date.
Ah,
Here we go.
I feel so safe here.
But I did. I felt very safe on the first date. And we did. We had our first date. We met for breakfast. And I think it turned into like a 5 or 6 hour conversation. Um, but it was this exhale, and then this space in which I was then inspired to explore my feminine. And I really wanted to embody that feminine for myself and for our relationship. And then, especially for becoming a mother, that was important to me. And if you are a woman trying to, you're very curious about embodying your feminine as well, you don't need that initial partner like I had. That was my experience. It would be, again, to create that feeling of safety with yourself, which I think comes with offering true presence to yourself through that healed masculine virtue. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that for me, I also found safety in a partner. I didn't realize it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, too, there was a lot of programming that, like, even if I had that safety, I was so set in my ways. We are both Tauruses, therefore known for being stubborn.
Just a little bit.
In my stubbornness, and in my badge of honor of independence, I had a really difficult time trusting
Mm-hmm.
and allowing him to step in and lead. And
Trust is the feminine.
a lot of work that I've been doing lately is just trying to really step away and let him lead and trust him being a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And it has transformed our relationship, even in the short amount of time that I've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him change. I've seen him really, really shift into leading the family in a different way.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that comes to mind too is when we talk about trust. I think a lot about when in business, a lot of times there's this like compulsion to do, right? Like, I don't have enough clients. I've got to advertise and I have to be on social media 24/7. And I have to go network and find more people and do, and all of these things. And the truth is that a lot of times it's just about trust. It's just, like, things take time. It's
Mm-hmm.
about having faith in that when you create a business, it takes time. It takes patience. It takes things don't happen overnight, but we live in this false sense of security around doing that as long as I'm working, I'm going to be getting the results. As long as I put the time and effort into something, it's going to pay off. And if I
Mm-hmm.
sit back and just trust, oh, no, 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 you're not doing enough.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I approached my entire business from the feminine and from that place of trust. I do not like the energy of Instagram, and I don't really advertise in that way. And I remember having a conversation with you about like, well, how do you seek more clients. And I was like, oh, I manifest them. Like I take it to the universe. How else would you get a client? Um,
Why? How do you get clients?
and yeah, like, what are you saying that strategy's off? And for any of you out there that are rolling your eyes at me, one day I literally took this. I do kind of, sometimes I'll have a ceremony around this. And I did a ceremony where I felt I was ready to call in more clients because my daughter had just started school and I felt like I had increased my capacity to do so. I did that ceremony. And then a few hours later, I got on, I think it was either like, I think it was Facebook. And one of my clients had created this beautiful post about working with me. And like, if anyone, because of the value that I brought to him, he would love to connect other people in his life with me. And this wasn't like I had reached out to him or talked to him. Like, I literally made the ask and then I got on and I was like, oh, thank you. You are delivering. But it was embodying this place of, I trust myself. I trust that I pour my heart and my essence into these sessions. And as long as I am showing up in alignment and in integrity with me, if this is the work I'm meant to do, this will happen for me. And I did have to eventually bring in more of the masculine to structure my business.
QuickBooks and the
Yeah.
like.
And I also wanted to talk about your approach to softening in your relationship with Bobby and allowing him to lead. I've taken this approach with my husband. And one of the things that I've shifted is I never tell him how to be a man. And I don't think I really realized how emasculating that was to do so to a man. And he's a serial entrepreneur and he's building the company now, I believe, is like part of his destiny, very on path. And I remember in the beginning, he would kind of come to me with a problem and me with my zero experience at the time of doing anything in building a business, I'd be like, oh, well, this is what you do. Like, who am I to say? I don't know. But it was, again, very much in just like, oh, you're bringing me a problem. Let me fix it. And I have shifted that. And I only ever reflect to him, you know how to lead. Like, you are meant to lead this company. You know how to lead it. Like, you're going to do it. And I even do this with my clients that are men. And I mentioned in the first episode, but I'll mention again briefly if you're just now tuning in for the first time. When I started this work, I actually thought I was going to work with just women. And then men started coming to me. And I believe that happened because at the same time I had started this work, I was really doing a deep dive into these masculine, feminine relating and how to bring them into harmony in relationship with each other and in yourself. And I developed a very deep reverence and respect for the masculine, which I carry every day. I don't trash talk men. I value their reputation. I hold it very highly. I literally only ever reflect back to them their ability to lead, their ability to discern. That's the light that I want to shine for them in that path. And I believe that when I came into that reverence and respect of the masculine started seeking me to. I think there's such value when the feminine can shine that light for them. So I think I kind of naturally switched into a place where I could hold this work. And if you are a woman that works with men in any capacity, I invite you to explore this in yourself as well, because I hear a lot of stories around, especially men that have attended couples counseling, marriage counseling. It's very much they always leave feeling like it was their wife and the counselor teamed up against them to like bash them, to tell them all the ways in which they're failing or not doing. And that is never, ever, ever how you are going to get a man to step up ever. Like, ever. It's only going to cause him to withdraw more. So I think one of the values of being a woman who is in relationship with the masculine is understanding the respect that the masculine just seeks and honestly needs to step into his highest, most fulfilling state of being that protector, that provider, that leader.
You asked me how I've softened.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of the relationships that I've been in, I feel like the ways in which I've communicated could have been very emasculating
Mm-hmm.
in me putting my business first and in really caring about the business, and acting like I know better,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to lead the family and wanting to lead the relationship as well. Um, and so I've been with my partner for 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big transition period too where he left the army and lost his identity for a long
Yes.
time, and so there were a lot of mental health things too that he had to work through, where losing that identity, losing that tribe, um, was really difficult for him.
Mhm.
And I didn't know how to support him. And at the same time, too, I was afraid for my safety,
Mhm.
because I was afraid that, not my safety as in he's going to hurt me,
Mhm.
but I was afraid for the safety of our relationship and for the health of it. And is he going to be able to support me if he's sitting at home depressed?
Mhm.
And I think when we got to the other side of it, what helped us get to the other side of it was a lot of, not me telling him, you need to start going to the gym again, you need to start going out and getting a job and going and doing things.
Mhm.
But which I did at the very, very start, like over and over and over again to no avail. It was when I just kind of let him be and
Yeah.
trusted and just said, like, look, you know how to work this out. You've done it before. You'll do it again. Like, I just have full faith. I'm just
Mhm.
going to do what I need to do and be there for you.
Mhm.
And just know that I still love you through all of this. And when we got to the other side, it's been a completely different shift.
Yeah.
And even now, like, he's doing things that I never thought he would. He's stepping in and helping and showing up and leading. And it's a very, very different experience.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. One of my I really like the work of Laura Doyle, and she is a intimacy coach and relationship coach, and she talks a lot about how women hold a lot of the power in the relationship in terms of creating this fulfilling, intimate, deep space. And we women often damage it by doing what we've been talking about, is the way they speak to the man like they know better, and they know better than he does how to be the man. It destroys intimacy. And she brought it to my attention how when women are in relationship, they can either have intimacy or control. And because of our wounding, the wounds that we hold, we're constantly seeking that control, which was for you, like, I don't feel safe because he doesn't have a job. He's in transition. So how do I get that control? Let me just tell him how to be, tell him what to do, tell him to go get a
Absolutely.
job. And when you choose intimacy and you choose to deepen that and you choose to shine a light on the man that you know is there, like the man that you fell in love with, the man that you know he's capable of being, not in a way in which you're pointing out all of his flaws, but you're shining a light on, I trust you. I trust you're going to find your way. I know you're going to be able to get through this. I know you're going to be able to find fulfillment outside of the army in your situation. That is the path he rises to. And Lord also often speaks to how women, we create this self-fulfilling prophecy in a relationship where if you're constantly like nitpicking your husband and speaking to how he's failing you, he's going to walk that path of failing you more and more and more.
I wanted to touch on one of the things that we talked about in one of the sessions with me. I don't know how to say that. In one of our sessions, one of the things that I brought to you was, in preparing for motherhood, I have this narrative of, well, I know that if I need to be a single mom, I can.
Mhm.
Like, I know that no matter what, I'll be able to.
Mhm.
And those feel like such foreign words now. It's so funny. This
Yeah.
is this is fascinating. I said this maybe 6 months ago. Um,
Yeah. I think it was longer. I think it was closer to January.
so yeah, I literally sat and said that, and Melissa was like, "Well,
Well, because at first, I was the one that brought it up because I remember I went into meditation before our session, and what I was getting as an image was I was getting you like putting your foot in and then taking your foot out, and like putting your foot in and then taking your foot out.
I was doing the hokey pokey,
You
y'all."
were, and then I brought it up to you because then once I kind of like honed in on that, I was getting like the I can do this on my own. To where I was even like, did she break up with Bobby? Like, what is going on here? But I remember like bringing that to you and you just being like, well, yeah, like and we kind of talked through how that narrative was in place to kind of keep you feeling safe, but it wasn't keeping you safe. It was, again, that way in which you were trying to get control, and it was only your intimacy that was suffering. You weren't creating safety for yourself.
No,
No, you were actually kind of creating more of a state of exhaustion of that half in, half out dance that you didn't need to be doing.
no wonder my leg was sore.
And I was actually thinking about this on the way here. I was thinking about the way in which, because I used to be very similar in like, I will never allow myself to need a man. And I am fully in this place of I need my husband. I need him because I love him. I need him because of all of the parts of him that I just love so deeply. I need him because of what he brings to my life, my daughter's life. And if the worst were to somehow happen, I am strong and resilient and I know I'll be okay, but I don't need to wear that as like I don't need to have that on me as a shield. I'm just going to be in this place of I love you so deeply. I am all in. Let's go. And that has been in itself just such a just so transforming and honestly like highly recommend. Like the depths of
Yeah.
love you can reach when you're ready to really surrender to it and go all in, knowing that you're not protecting yourself from being half in, half out. Like you're just not. You think you might be, but you're not. You're keeping yourself from deepening in a relationship with somebody that at some point you chose. And if those reasons have changed, by all means, rearrange your life and get you what you want. You know, we're here for that. But at some point you chose him. Are you going to be all in? If not, you either do work on yourself or get out.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair, right? It's not fair for him, it's not fair for you to be
Mm-mm.
half in. And it's all about trust.
Not only fair, but like again, it's what is the more fulfilling, what is the deeper experience? Um, that to me is more important than fair because fair is a value that is often very
I mean, more so a disservice
yeah, a disservice.
to both parties,
Hmm.
right? So it's a disservice to yourself, it's a disservice to them.
Yeah.
And on top of it, like it all comes from not logical proof of, listen, here's a T chart. Here's all the reasons why I should be all in with Bobby. Here's all the reasons that I should not be all in with Bobby. It comes from just that belief, that feminine trust
That trust,
of just,
that
you know
value of
what? I'm
trust.
going to decide to trust
Hmm.
and decide. You like to use the word being devoted. I'm going
Yes.
to trust and decide to be devoted to him and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, like 9 months later, I mean, I'm happier than I ever
And it is, it's
could have
this,
been.
there's magic in these intimate relationships that can go so deep. And when you go so deep with a partner or a friend, when you don't have these things like trying to keep you protected, you learn so much about yourself and you reclaim aspects of yourself that have been lost to you through the exhaustion of trying to keep that facade or that shield on. I am I'm so devoted to my husband and I'm also just devoted to our marriage. I see our marriage as like this kind of entity in itself and it's the foundation of our home. It's the foundation of our family and it is really integral can't say that word today to all of the values and dreams that I hold for my life. And you know, I think it was, we've been together 8 years. I think it wasn't until I was about 3 years into that where I could really start to surrender and soften in these ways that we're talking about. And each year it just gets deeper and it's beautiful.
I love that. This, I wanted to bring up this question that I had about roles in society
Hmm.
and how it relates to masculine and feminine. Because I think that I remember there being like a football player or something that gave a speech.
Oh, yeah.
And in his speech, there was a lot of like uproar over the fact that he had said that his wife is a stay at home mom
Hmm.
and finds fulfillment, and how he hopes that other women also explore that.
Hmm.
And I think old me would have, or a former version of me would have agreed with everybody else being like, how dare he tell us what to do? I can find fulfillment outside of the home. And I really feel like as I've been doing the work, as I've been, as you say, coming home to myself, which I really, really love. I think that's such a phenomenal phrase. I've been noticing that I want to be home
Hmm.
more and more. And though I don't have kids yet, when I do have them, like I can't imagine not wanting to be home to raise them.
Hmm.
And I can't imagine not wanting to take a huge, huge part in their lives,
Yes.
because that gift was given to me in a great, great way. And I really, really loved it. And how do you think that plays in, like the narrative of how dare he say that? How do
Yeah.
you think that plays into the opposite, which is maybe we are meant to be home in some way or find fulfillment at home.
Yeah. Well, I would say you are meant to do what you desire to do. And like you, a past version of me would have found deep offense at that. And that past version of me was very wounded and very disconnected from what I actually wanted. And I was living a life that I was told I should live, which is you should find success and fulfillment and freedom outside of the home. And this like 1950s housewife is, she is not free. She is like, how could she possibly be fulfilled with her life? She is, in some way, not living up to what a woman should be. And I think one of the most important things is bringing these conversations to light or bringing another narrative to women that they can then choose from. I don't know if I could have received that message that he was saying when I was in my 20s. And I also think that I've heard many women say that, like, even in high school, all they wanted to do was get married and have babies, and they were shamed for it. Like, no, you need to have a plan B. You need to go to college. You need to have something to fall back
I
on.
shamed. I have a former friend who I definitely did not understand. She constantly talked about how I really want to be a mother.
Hmm.
I really want to have a husband and that was really what she aspired for. And I was like,
Yeah.
how could those just be her aspirations? How could she not want more out of life?
And on my own personal journey, I stepped away from my job to be at home with my baby. And I had to go through, when I did that, I went through a lot of experiencing, like, not shame for that choice, but like, how could I have done this for my choice? And that lasted about a week. And then I never looked back. And I knew I had to, because I knew I could never leave my baby. Like, that was something that I had said to my husband, like, I can't leave her. There's, I'm like, there's no way I could just do that.
And I think too, a lot of moms feel that too and go back because
Yeah.
they feel or they're at a place where they think that there's no other choice.
And I feel when I say this to another woman, especially another woman that did go back to work. Oh, sorry, I bumped my microphone. I feel like I have to tiptoe around this because I don't want to trigger any shame in them. Like, I'm very, very, very grateful that I have the opportunity to do this, that I had the opportunity to do that. And I also think society is not structured in a way where women are given the option. And I think that's something that we have to look to. Like, many families are under this assumption that they don't have the option. And then I think that might be why we're shamed for having these conversations. Like, there is another way. Like, my husband and I, we have one car. We didn't take vacations when I was not working. Um, and we had very, like, we didn't have disposable income. Like, and also it doesn't cost a lot of money to stay at home with a baby. It's not like I was like getting dressed up to like walk around the
Putting
neighborhood.
on her diamonds.
Yeah, like, let's I,
Hold on, honey.
and again, so I'm still home with her, and I work from home now. And in building my company, in building my business, I've always been very firm in my daughter comes first. I grow this company as she grows. And there have been times when I've turned down clients, like, no, I can't see you this week because I'm mothering. Like, that's it. And it's a incredibly deep value of mine and his. And we're structuring our life to allow that to be. And I think when I first did this, there was a lot of scarcity mindset that I had to do a lot of work on money with. That's another podcast story, I'm sure.
I can't wait for that one, actually.
Yeah, very excited. Um, and I think having conversations with younger women on how there is a different way and how your values are going to change as you age, and especially your values are going to change drastically when you become a mother. I had no idea what type of mother I was going to be until I became one. I co-sleep with my daughter. I did extended breastfeeding. I, like, all of the ways in which I was her parent. I had no idea that that was what was coming for me. And I don't think you can possibly know until you do it. And one of the most thought-provoking conversations that I've been listening to as of late is women talking about the value of having babies younger in life. And the first time I even heard it, this one woman was speaking to the value of having babies before you were 25. And I was like, what? Like, There's no
You're
way.
just hearing this? I've heard this my entire life.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you have been hearing that. But when I first heard it, I was initially like, there's no, you're not mature enough to have babies before 25. And there is an initiation you go through when, as a woman, when you become a mother. And that initiation happens regardless of the age that you have it at. And there's a conversation, there's a broader conversation around fertility that I think as women, we've been told delay having children, like graduate high school, graduate college, kick ass at your career, and then become a mother, maybe as an afterthought, and then retire, I
And
guess.
if not, freeze your eggs
Freeze your
and
eggs.
then do it later.
Also, birth control, like take birth control, take full charge of your fertility. And we're never told about the consequences or even the success rates of these procedures. They're not that high. They're not a promise. They're not a guarantee. And it's actually having these conversations has changed how I'm going to be talking about these things with my daughter. For example, my husband and I recently this year, we created a trust for all of our assets. And in that trust, we were sitting with our lawyer talking about at what age will our daughters have access to the trust. And at first we were like, oh, we don't really want to restrict based on whatever. And she was like, no, I think you should restrict because she had a history as being a lead paint litigator. And she was saying, like, when you are 18, you just don't have the brain to really make good decisions. So that was excellent feedback. But then in our trust, I think we ended up on the age of 28, and then we have but for education and for buying a house, they'll have access to the money. And I actually think I want to go back and say, like, if my daughter wants to have babies and stay at home, let's give her access to this money. Like, why would I only support her for, again, going down that one path that we've deemed the correct path,
Absolutely.
and not have these conversations around there are benefits to starting younger that I was never told about. Never was I told about this. It was only ever that one path of go to college, go to grad school, kick ass at your career, then
Well,
maybe.
it's the responsible thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the thing that feels the most responsible. And the truth is that it's also incredibly responsible to have a child, and yeah, maybe you don't go on vacation
Mm-hmm.
right away, but that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
you've been able to find a pivot and create a business that is centered around your child rather than
Yes, she is the priority of my life. She's the most fulfilling thing in my life. And I would say now, like, do work on your money stories. And then you might not have to sacrifice these things. But also, just these conversations, I think, are so important because so many women walk that path that we've been talking about, the college, grad school success, and they are empty.
unfulfilled.
They're
Yeah.
empty. They're unfulfilled. They're bitter. They're resentful. They're tired. They have autoimmune disorders. And it's very much how much are we designed to grind, 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 and then come home and spend a few hours a day with our family, fall asleep, rinse and repeat, and do it the next day.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on you talked about shifting the narrative around having kids young.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to talk about how often I'm on a Zoom call with somebody and their kid walks in and they go, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." If your child needs you right now,
Yeah.
take a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to think any less of you.
But people do. People think that
Absolutely.
you're less professional. And very much it used to be like we had children and we just made them part of our world. It was just a very natural way of being.
It takes a village, as they say, right? So
Yeah.
everybody was very much invested in raising all of these children.
Yeah. And now it's very much like, you know, do all these things, accomplish all these things, and then have them. And then, like, don't let people really know you have them. Like, don't take them on an airplane and let them cry. Like, all these things in which they're just not really welcomed into society. I think, and again, I never tell anyone what to do. Even in my paid client sessions, I never tell my clients what to do. I'm all about sovereignty, and you know best how to make your life choices. So we're not saying, tell your daughters to have babies at 20. We're saying there needs to be a shift in the conversation because to me, when I was young and when I was coming of age, that option was riddled with shame and like, how could you possibly only want that for yourself?
So I think the issue isn't that either path is right or wrong.
No, it's not.
It's that there are different paths available for you, and you should be able to have the space to choose which one feels right.
And also society needs to shift, I think, to create these viable options, because if you choose the path of having your babies young and then your babies end up going to like graduating high school and you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you can then start a very fulfilling career that will span 2 or 3 decades. And there has to be a shift in hiring a woman with no work experience at that age where you'll feel like she can contribute to your company. And I don't know who can get shit done better than mothers. Like, I think we should be able to like brag on our resume about all the things that motherhood requires of us. And I know there has to be a cultural shift at large of allowing women in the workspace later in life and not seeing it as a detriment, but seeing it as an advantage of somebody who can. I mean, her time management skills are going to be off the chart.
Yeah, I
Her
don't
conflict management skills.
I don't hold any of those narratives around when I hire,
Mhm.
but I will say one of the things that I've noticed about when I bring them in for an interview, if they've been a stay-at-home mom for any extended amount of time, their confidence is incredibly shot because of
Mhm.
what they think other people are thinking about
Yes,
them. And I think that is so damaging because if you're a mother, you're a
you're a
badass.
badass.
You're a freaking badass. And how are you not owning the fact that you're a badass?
Yeah. And also, just seeing it for what it is, as the most sacred, not the most, but one of the most sacred roles in our society is the bearer of children. And I think that's kind of one of the most toxic narratives at play, is like, it's kind of like we don't support mothers in any way and we expect that we expect so much of them. A lot of shifts I think need to happen for these conversations to really become, part of our lived experience for our daughters and younger women.
Absolutely.
Um, well, thank you guys again for tuning in. If you have any questions about these esoteric and, constantly winding, moving topics that we talk about, please reach out. We would love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
And if you are a woman that is curious about embodying her feminine in a more, life altering way, we would love to invite you to apply for our Awaken Your Goddess retreat, February 6th through 9th in Sedona, Arizona.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
We're so excited for our next conversation. It was a really successful,
Very successful day. I knew Friday the 13th was going to deliver.